Hello, everyone. I am Polly Wirum, and I have a wonderful new friend here with me, Terrie Huberman. Am I saying that correctly?
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask my dad, it's Huberman, but me, I don't care. I'll answer to it.
Okay. You know what's funny? Were you called Teresa when you were younger or something? Because
At times, well, my
I,
name, my birth name is actually Therese.
because I kept hearing Teresa. I was like, okay, writing down your name. I kept hearing Teresa, but
Yeah,
I also have
Therese.
a friend treat, but I kept hearing Teresa.
Yeah,
But
you're spot on.
anyhow, welcome and thank you. And listen, Terrie is a new friend, but I could say I kind of stalked her on Instagram because I like what she posts. So, number one, I like people that are fun, that keep spirituality fun, right?
Yeah,
It's not just like this thing where you have to go plow the field for 20 miles every day. It's not
yeah,
that. It
yeah,
should be fun. It should feel good. It should be inspirational. And that's the type of stuff that Terrie posts. But you are, well, why don't you're a medium, you're a psychic, you're a life coach, you're an intuitive, you are a transformational coach, you do all sorts of stuff. Did I miss anything there? I'm sure.
there's more to come. I'm
Yeah.
an evolving human, so who
Yes.
knows what my future lives are going to be in this current lifetime. So
Yes.
yeah, for now you've got everything, so that's pretty good. I mean, in a nutshell, I think what I do is I just help people navigate their human experience so that they can access their intuition. I mean, if you want
You
a
and
nutshell.
you and I work. I mean, we basically, if you looked at our websites, you're going to say, yeah, they say the same thing.
Yeah.
But, and I love your website, by the way. I have it
Oh,
pulled
thank
up
you.
next to me. It's beautiful. But I think, one of the things when I was looking at your website, and, both you and I talk about transformation. And so it made me think about, you know, I wonder if people ever look at what we post about transformational coach or helping you transform. If people ever look at us and are like, well, what do they want us to transform into? Who are they trying
Mm,
to transform us into? Right? Thinking that we
yeah.
have this agenda of
Yeah.
right, of having everybody out there be the same.
Yeah.
And and we don't. But I think that that's an interesting thing, an interesting thing to bring up because I'm sure I'm sure that you are similar, but just share how you do this. It really is like helping people figure out how they want to transform and who they are.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has a purpose here.
Yeah.
Okay. And the purpose is to give your gift. Not everybody knows what their gift is actually at various points in their life. And it can change because we are a body that contains a soul, right? So the body will go through various experiences so that the soul can have the experience. And as that evolves, so do our purposes, you know? And I think most people feel or think that their purpose has to have some sort of attachment to income, and it's not. So when people understand this and they do some, I guess the easiest way to call it is shadow work, get down into the deep, ugly parts of themselves, they can work through that and then realize what their purpose is or a purpose, because we might have more than one. And again, it's to give it. That is the
Yes.
purpose, is to give these gifts.
Okay. I love that you said that. I love that you said shadow work because
Yeah.
that you brought this up because I am kind of like the polar opposite of that. Like I like people to look at, well, what makes you happy? Right? Like what's the stuff? And so I love seeing the
Mm,
way different people work, right?
yeah. So here's the thing. The thing is that we are bound to earthly ways because we are wearing earth suits. If we were wearing Venusian suits, we would have to do different things because we'd be living on Venus. On Earth, we live in a physical reality of duality, right? So that means there's always going to be contrast that we are going to have to go through or work through. So I oftentimes will call the shadow work, I'll call it earth work, because your light work, dealing with the non-physical part, your psychism, your mediumship will only get you so far if you're not doing the earth work. So you have to do the shadow work, because the shadow work are where the blocks are. And you're bound to this just because you're wearing a human earth suit. I mean, that's science. That is like the third dimension of reality is height, width, and length. Okay, the fourth dimension is time. So as long as you have any type of mass or matter to yourself, you are bound to the third dimension of physical reality. So it is learning how to navigate your way through that shadow work. And a lot of people don't realize what actually makes them happy until they discover or they encounter that contrast of themselves. So I'm of the belief that you need to be not just working on what makes you happy, but working through what is it that's your block, that's actually depressing you right now, that's frustrating you right now, that you're feeling shame about right now, because those hold energetic frequencies that have to move through the body in order to get to the other side, if that makes any sense.
So do you help people? Okay, here's a question. Do you help people? How long do you stay in it? Like, say somebody has, they're angry at their dad. I'll just throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's an easy one. Okay, do you really unpack it? Do you spend like, okay, a copious amount of time like unpacking every trigger that ever happened? Or do you just touch on it and be like, okay, well, how can we reframe this, or what positive, or is there anything positive? Like, how much time do you stay in that?
Right. So that's a good question. So the longer you stay in the frequency of whatever emotion, which is energy in motion that you're having, the longer it actually stays in your body. Okay. Because energy needs momentum. And the body, since it's mass and matter, it holds those energetic frequencies. Yes. So the longer you're talking about things, or the longer you're thinking about things, nothing happens. So the way energy alchemizes, transforms, and shifts is actually through action. So when I'm working with people, I'm giving them stuff to do to break the block. Because unless you're in it in this now moment, you can't heal past lives or even past many lives within this one life. So, I generally speaking, I mean, I can do a 30-minute reading or an hour reading, but that will get you this far. So people who are really interested in really transforming and changing their life, I work with them minimum 12 weeks, and a lot happens within those 12 weeks. But I make them do things. That's where you break the energetic attachment, not by continuously talking about things. Now, it doesn't mean talking about things isn't helpful, because it brings up the aha moments, but aha moments don't lead to an aha life.
No, and I totally appreciate, because it's the breaking things up, doing something differently, right? Breaking it up.
Yeah.
And not sitting. Sorry, I don't mean to be pointing at you.
That's okay.
And not sitting in, the car that's burning, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's one of the biggest things, are, people feeling that they have to go back and really re-experience that over and over and over, and look at it a million different ways. And you stay there.
Yeah, but nothing changes unless you change, and you can only change by doing something different. So if you've got a pattern, it needs to be broken. And really the only way to break a pattern is by doing something. You can talk all you want. That's great, but that's not going to change anything.
Right.
So that's what I do, is I support people through that process, because a lot of people think they can do it on their own, and they can. So I don't want to say they can't, but it's a much longer, harder, miserable road. So I just support people through that process. And just having that high intuition, I can really get in there and go, well, have you considered this happened at this age? Da, 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 So I don't therapize people, but I mean, I will work with deep trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about one of the things that you posted that I thought was great. It was something about spells.
Yes.
I can't even remember what it was, but it was spells. And I love that, because how many times do you see people that are like, pay $50, $250, whatever, to break the spell, or hopefully they don't do this, but cast the spell, cast the love spell or whatever. And so whatever you posted, I was in my total agreement again. Um, you know, my opinion of spells, like, okay, possibly even when we raise our children, we're putting spells on them because we're telling them, like, oh, you're like a phenomenal baseball player, but a horrible basketball player or whatever. Guess what we're doing? We're like setting the, we're putting a spell on them, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever you posted, genius words that it was something about spells. So what's your take on them?
So, okay, so I am an energy harnesser. Some people might call that witchcraft. It's all done through ritual, typically. So here's the thing, the way energy works, and I operate from a really pragmatic, practical outlook, point of view, and scientific. So energy behaves a certain way. And what happens is wherever you place your attention on something, that's where energy will follow. Now, again, we live in this physical reality of duality. So we have a choice, right? How are we going to place our attention on something? Are we going to place our attention as if it's already happened and we feel amazing? Or are we going to constantly place our attention on the lack of it and keep tracking it and logging it and going, well, where is it? How come it's not here yet? That's where your attention is going. So that's where your energy is going. So if you're going to have a belief system, which is a bunch of thoughts that you think over and over again, they can turn into thought forms, which kind of turn into entities in a way that need to consistently be fed. Things like that are like politics and sports, entertainment, stuff like that. So, if you're going to if you're going to go to somebody that's going to put a spell on someone else, or you think a spell was put on your family, it's not to say that people were not having those negative thoughts or those bad thoughts, but if you're going to place your attention on it, you will create and manifest it. So you just always want it, like the best indicator of what you're bringing in or what your human experience is about to be like is like, what are you feeling in any now moment? Because that is what is going to be mirrored around you, and that is going to become your reality. Now, granted, there's a time lag because we live in a space-time continuum. Wherever you have a space between, I don't know if you could, there we go. Wherever you have a space between two things, it takes time to close that gap. So, oftentimes when we're working on change or whatnot, we're like, why isn't it happening as fast as I'm like working on it? Because there's still residual schmutz.
Yeah.
And it takes time. So spell work, I've done all kinds of spell work. I've done good spells and bad spells. I was even taken when I was younger. I was told a family curse was put on my family, and me at that point in my life, I was so vulnerable. I wanted to do whatever I could to save my family. I got taken for $500
Oh,
until something within me said, something's not right here.
yeah.
And then I stopped. But I am psychic and I was taken.
Yeah.
So you really have to be aware of where your energy is in any now moment.
I often tell people, pay attention to how you feel when you get the reading, right? If you feel
Absolutely.
good, it's okay. If something makes you feel like something's off here, leave. Right?
It doesn't have to take long. You'll know like within 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely 100%. If there's anything that you're like, well, something's off, it's off, leave. Leave your money on the table and go.
Yeah.
What were your teenage years like?
Oh boy.
Like, did you have did everything start a big change? Like, was it like, oh my God, like all of a sudden I don't fit into the world quite the same way that I used to, or anything like that?
I was always super sensitive. So I was a crybaby. Like that's all I ever did was cry, happy or sad, cry. Even to this day, that is how I liberate this energy from my body, is mostly through tears. As a teenager, I mean, I was really insecure, but what I would do is I would compensate with a sense of humor. So I always tried to make people laugh because in my mind, I was like, if I can make people laugh, they would feel better about themselves. So already, working through all my trauma shit and all that stuff. But a lot of times when people start to get into their puberty years, it's when a lot of paranormal experiences
That's why I was asking you.
happen. Yeah. They didn't get exacerbated or anything like that. I've had it my entire life. It comes from my mom and my sisters and my mom's mom. And I was raised Jewish with the Kabbalah and mysticism.
Oh,
So
cool.
for me, it was just like normal, regular stuff. I'm blessed in that way. It didn't start to get really weird for me until my mediumistic tendencies started to show up. So my psychism was there my entire life, but my mediumship started to show up closer to when I was 40. And then I was like, what is going on here? So for me, it happened later in life.
Yeah, well, same here. I mean, I like you, I had stuff even as a kid that, like, I remember I was probably 3 or 4 and I felt something and it was on, like it was didn't feel good or it was just foreign or whatever. And I tried to hide in the closet. And it wasn't until, 5 years ago or something that I realized, oh, that's actually like when somebody that's crossed over is trying to come through or so, right? That feeling. I didn't know what it was at that age.
Yeah.
So similarly.
I think I was 6 or 7, I can't remember exactly, is when I had my first conscious paranormal experience. I was sleeping in bed and I felt someone tugging at my covers and I was like, what is going on here? So I sat up, and in my childhood room there was like a mirror closet door. When I sat up, I saw my head was the wolf's head and I was like,
oh wow,
what is that? So I of course went back down and covered my head with the sheets, and I still don't know what that was, but that was my first like conscious, like, whoa.
Yeah. How exciting though. I mean, and here's the thing, like everybody has every day has something amazing that happens. Like everybody does, besides just the fact that we can breathe. But each of us has something that's amazing. But I don't know that we stop to recognize it.
Well, I don't know, because once again, and this is where I come from, we have human experiences that suppress the intuition so that we can work through them, so that we can remember and access them. So we remember our power. So it never goes away. It just kind of gets a little bit buried until we work through them. Because again, we are earthlings.
Yeah.
We have an earth suit. And that is actually what creates the spiritual experience, is working through the human drama and the human BS. That is when your consciousness gets expanded and your awareness becomes expanded. And until you have enough experiences, it's hard for you to see past physical reality and what's actually going on, to access those energetic frequencies or feelings or emotions, which once again is just energy and motion. So it's just, spirituality is really practical and pragmatic.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to go sit under a tree with a hand mudra for hours and, meditate and all of that. You don't have to do that to remember your power. You just have to understand and truly get how energy works, why it's all happening, and then learn how to, I don't want to say manipulate it, but learn how to navigate it.
Yeah, I agree. It's so much easier than what people have been taught or led to believe. I guess it's led to believe. I totally agree. Okay, so you put predictions on your website, I saw.
I did I work with Karen Rontowski and she has me do it every year. And I'm like really nervous to do it because especially these days, energy is so fluid. You could I don't know if you've noticed this, Polly, but like in one day, like it goes up, down, up, down, up, down. And because we are all in this ascension, things change minute by minute. So I don't like making an entire year prediction, but I do it for her. So then I post it. Yes.
Well, I actually love doing them. I think that they're really fun, but I agree. It's, it's interesting because so I used to do them like all the time on, I think, Facebook or something. I do like a weekly thing.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting, I mean, and I get like the bizarre things like a jewelry heist or something.
Right?
But the thing is, it might not make the news for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Right. Sure.
Right. And so that was kind of interesting. But then sometimes I would, I mean, again, they were so bizarre. I would say, like one time it was like sailors being like pulled from the sea or like some Navy ship, whatever. And then like 2 days later, somebody from the UK texted me and said, "Did you see what happened in the news?" But the thing is, it's like, it's so like what we pick up might not ever make the news, or it might be like weeks later, right?
Or it may not even happen at all because in that now moment,
Yeah.
we're tapping into a certain timeline.
Right. And then it put me in this point of, okay, so we can tap into the possibilities that this will happen, but does it really matter?
I don't feel like it matters because we have
Right.
human. I mean, that's one of the gifts of being human is free
Yeah.
will and choice.
Exactly.
So we can literally make life is like a choose your own adventure book. You can choose something completely different in the next now moment, and you're on a whole other trajectory, whole other timeline. So to me, that's really powerful. So
I agree. I mean, I even like got to the point of like, I like doing them, but not necessarily putting it out there because it's like
well, it could easily change. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also people's. I don't know. It's allowing people to choose what they want, and it's the same with readings, right? Because I'm sure that you're going to be like. I'm sure that you look at people and you can say, okay, this is what it feels like. Unless there's a drastic change, this is what's unfolding. Like this is what.
I always just say this is what's happening in this now moment. This is the conversation we're having. You literally can make a different choice as soon as you hang up here, and that's up to you. I can only give you potentials and possibilities.
Yes.
We all have to have accountability for our own choices and decisions. And you know what? So many times I'm telling my clients, I really want to be wrong for what I'm saying. And if you want me to be wrong, then even better.
Yeah.
So.
But I think I think it's really important for, I guess, for people to understand, like, so we can see, feel, or hear and knows, this is what it feels like right now. Does not mean, I mean, you can change that, right?
Oh, it's not the end all be all. All what's happening is we're light beings, right? And energy is measured right now. The only way they can measure energy is through light waves. Okay. On every light wave is pieces of data and information. That is what we are picking up through various of our physical senses. So sometimes that data and information will be interpreted as a smell or interpreted as a taste or a feeling or, something we hear or see. So we're actually using our physical senses to like we're interpreting data and information off of light waves. And because we are human, we we are bound still by human ways, so we don't know everything. And yes, we can be wrong. We could be misinterpreting it too.
It is. It's the interpretation.
Interpretation.
Okay, so it's so interesting because like you say, we're a human experience, and so it's our interpretation of how we're receiving, it's our interpretation of what we're receiving, all of that. So I guess, and I love to simplify things, but my understanding, my simplification of it is like, to me, it always feels like I'm going, like I put my awareness to this place of pure potential. I put my awareness to this place of receiving, like kind of like what this person's energy feels like or whatever. And it's kind of like the same, like if you're a good manifester, you have the ability to be a very good intuitive. Like it's the same of like, if you're living with the flow, you can tap into that. But I think it's interesting because it's like, it's when we tap into what's going on in somebody's energy field, it's malleable. It's so close to, it's made of that pure potential, right? And so
it's just energy.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, like to be able, I guess I've been trying to piece this together the last few days, like, because
Sure.
for me it feels like it's the same place, but there's a slight difference because something is already starting to take form. I guess is the way I will feel. Something's already starting to be.
So something is percolating in manifestation for
Yeah.
you.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so that you're probably being given pieces of evidence of your manifestation when that's happening.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, it's not for me. It's like if I do readings for somebody, right? You pick up stuff that's going on, but in my mind, I'm like, well, it's the same place. I mean, the manifestation is the same place as it's the same. It's energy, right?
I'd have to disagree.
Yeah. Good.
So manifestation is usually some sort of physical form, like, or reception of what it is that you wanted, which means it's actually less energy and it's more matter. So it's actually a slower frequency or vibration. Let's say you want a car, right? You're doing a lot of energy work because anything that you get or you want always starts off as energy before it actually arrives.
But before the
Right.
car,
Okay,
which
before the car, that's energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's that open field of pure potential.
And there's just different speeds
Yeah.
and different movements or patterns of movement. And so what's happening is that it actually goes from a higher frequency to a lower frequency, and that's when you actually get it. So then there's a match.
And I think that that's the piece is like, because before the car, it's open. It's like this open field, right? It's
Yeah,
before you even know what you want. It's just
sure.
that, but it's that change as the person starts think good or bad, they start manifesting, right?
Yes,
But it's I like the way you're putting it though. It's a slower vibration and
it
lower,
is. Yeah.
I like the way you're putting that. And that can be whether it's their dream wedding or not. It's just different because it doesn't have that pure open.
Yeah, I mean, I think people get really confused by the words low and high in terms of frequency. They put a judgment to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, from the scientific perspective, it's just how fast a light wave is moving or a particle, or how slow it's going and in what pattern. So, like, energy really it gives none of the F's. If I weren't on your show, I would be saying the actual F word because I'm
Oh, I was like, what? You
energy.
can go ahead and do it.
Oh, okay. Energy gives none of the fucks. We're the ones that put some sort of
Yes.
judgment on it. So energy is going to always behave the same exact way. And again, it has to do with, well, what signal are you broadcasting based on, where you're putting your energy and your attention.
Yes.
So a slower, lower vibrational frequency, people think, oh my God, don't be around somebody who's low vibe. That's not it at all. It's just literally their vibration, their energy is just moving slower than yours. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
get all of that judgment out of the way because, I'm sorry, but having a cell phone is pretty cool. And this is a lot slower and much lower frequency than Polly, right? But I want this and I need this, so I'm cool with a low frequency.
But I do say pay attention to how you feel around somebody. I mean,
You have to. That's the broadcast signal.
yeah, you can title them high vibration, medium. We can title them whatever the hell you want. But if you don't feel good around them,
Yeah.
take a break because that's your gut.
But also, you have to have this skill to stay in your own lane and not lower your vibration to their frequency. So, yeah, you can be around a low frequency person. You just shouldn't match their vibration. That takes practice.
It does take practice. Absolutely. I mean, and that's one of the great, I'm sure that you run across that all the time. People that think, I found it. Here I am. I'm high vibration, but damn it, my family, they're so whatever. It's like, right? It's like, okay, so how do you blend? I'm sure that comes up all the time. And it's learning how to live in the world, right?
Yeah, you need to learn how to manage and balance your human nervous system. So that's what I do when I'm working with people. I do earth work and light work, and I have various techniques and tools to liberate trapped energy from the body. And it is not something that is easy to do because we're not taught how to do it. So it's literally relearning a whole new language, right? But it's learning how to take the energy of something, anything, and not blending and integrating it into your own
Yeah.
electromagnetic field. And it takes time and it takes practice.
Does anything surprise you, or what's the last thing that
Oh,
surprised you?
yeah, I'm surprised all the time. Listen, just because I know how to do this work and oftentimes I'm successful doesn't mean I'm always
Yeah.
successful. So literally today I've had a couple of breakdowns and I've been mulling it over and over in my head, and I've got the frequency of anger and frustration. I took my dog out to pee and I was walking up the stairs, boom, tripped on the stairs and fell. And I was like, you flubber. And I'm like, okay, the only reason why that happened is because I'm at a lower frequency right now, right? I'm living in these more survival kind of emotions of anger and frustration. And so I immediately said, I hear you. I hear you. I know exactly what's going on. I'm going to change right now in this now moment. I'm changing my frequency because I'm aware of what's going on with my energy. So when you have the awareness, you actually have more control in your life. And people think we have to be at the whim and the chaos of life. No, life doesn't happen to you. It's a choose your own adventure. In that now moment, I was like, ah, right. And I'm like, I'm choosing something so different right now. So what did I do? I actually clapped my hands, because when you clap your hands, you change the frequencies. You can leave your environment, you can blast music. In that brief moment, you change everything up. And now I'm like, I'm done with that. I can't right now. I just can't.
No, I always tell people that I have days or whatever days, half a day,
Yeah.
where I'm like, you know what, I'm choosing to be in a pissy mood today. And I know it's my choice, and I'll be like, right, and I'm aware of it. But I do like, what you're saying, clap your hands or whatever. Sometimes when people have this difficulty of having a change, like they think that this change is so difficult. Sometimes I have them drive a different way to work, change the furniture in your house, do something so you change it up so that things aren't like, the same, like the cow walking on the same path every single day.
And that's because everything is energy. And then you've created a new energy wave that can integrate and blend with your own energy field. So unless, once again, you do something different,
yeah,
you're not going to get different. And you're right. People really think it has to be some big dramatic thing. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's doing something different. I one time I wrote a blog about it because I had been traveling and went back to Alaska, and I was like, now I'm in Arizona, and it was summer in Alaska, and summer in Alaska is beautiful, but I was like, oh God, I did not love Alaska. But anyhow, so I was like, okay, my attitude sucked. I've got to do something different. And so we went ziplining as a family because I was like, I know this will break step up because it's going to be thrilling, a little scary, a little all of that. And it makes me feel alive again.
Yeah. There's a bit of a, I don't want to say discernment, but there's a bit of a tendency though for people to do toxic positivity. And that's not what I'm talking about by shifting and changing your, and just thinking positive. That doesn't happen. I mean, you have to let these energies and these frequencies move through the body. But when you know what's happening and you've been doing it long enough, you can shorten these, I call them flare-ups. These flare-ups get shortened in a significant amount of time, but you do have to deal with the emotions. So I don't want people who are watching this to kind of get like, oh, I'll just like pretend I'm happy and get my way out of this. That doesn't work because energy doesn't care, right? So it's going to be what it's going to be. So you do have to allow yourself to feel that feeling. You just, once again, don't want to dwell in it. You want to do something to change something. And I always put it as you don't or life, you and life, right? Like I'm not fit. Like my body right now is sore. I'm icing my hand because it hurts, right?
From the fall?
From the fall, yeah. It was like 10 minutes before you and I got online. But I'm here like I'm anding my way through this process, right? Like, yeah, that hurts. Yeah, but I am also, not only am I also going to be in physical pain, but I'm also going to meet with Polly and I'm also going to have fun.
Yes.
Right. So I'm doing what's called anding life, and people will, or life, they'll do things like, no, I can't talk to Polly right now. You don't, if that's what you normally do, you're not, so that's what I'm talking about, like toxic positivity. Like you can't fake your way through something, but you can and your way through something.
I think that's a good point because I think a lot of people are aware of, okay, this doesn't feel good, and they know that, okay, I have to go into my little place, kind of recover, make sense of what happened, and then I can move on.
Yeah.
And they allow, I guess that's the thing is find out what your coping mechanism is.
Yes.
Like how do you
That's what I do is I first help people discover like what their survival skills are so that they can identify it when they're in it, and then we change it.
Yeah. And recognize, okay, what do you need?
Yeah.
And then it doesn't, you're not in that place of, laying on the ground cursing steps as long as, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have like, do you have guides that you work with?
Do I what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you have guides that you work with or angels or like what's that?
Yes.
Type?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have so many, I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And I am of the belief system, it is not what a lot of people believe, but I'm of the belief system that they know what they're doing. They're employees of Source Creator, God, Goddess, whoever.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. So it's their job to do it. My only job is to have a relationship with them. So for me as a human, and again, I'm practical and pragmatic, I want to just know that I have a relationship with them. So I call them Team Terry. They're for me, and that's who I go by. So, I mean, I do have like one or two guides that do stand out most, but I pretty much just call everyone Team Terry, and I have an amazing relationship with them as I treat them as if they're human. But I don't see the benefit in saying, okay, you do this and you do, I just don't see that benefit. They all work together anyways. We're like pinball in a pinball game, with them. So they know what they're doing. I don't even have to worry about why am I going to put my attention on that and waste my energy on that? So again, just more practical, pragmatic. They knew who they are. Team Terry, they do their thing.
That's the lazy girl's way. I am the lazy girl. That's like,
you know what? I think I'm a little uncomfortable with the word lazy because I don't think I'm lazy.
I know, but no, I just wrote my blog about this. I'm going to write a book, and I have forever said I'm the lazy girl, but embracing the lazy because just allowing things to come in instead of thinking that you have to like label it, you have to direct, you have to. It's just like it is what it is, and like I'm like all of us, we have guides, we have right, and just it's like yeah.
So here's the thing, Polly. I don't know if you feel the same way, but as I go more and further deeper in my expansion and my awakenings, the less I know.
Absolutely.
So for me to put labels and to say this is this and this is this, I feel like I would be extremely arrogant to do that because I'd like to think I know everything. And just when I think I get it, guess what happens? Expansion. And I'm like, I know nothing.
Yes.
So that's a reason why I just feel like for me, I just need to be really practical and pragmatic. I'm a human being having a spiritual experience, and I really need to navigate my way through this lifetime so that I can honor, God, Goddess, Source, Creator, whatever, and I can be of service and still be human.
Yeah.
So the more I learn and study, the less I know.
No, I agree. I mean, look at honestly, because Terry, you're able to, you're talking about the way energy works. And of course I've thought about that, but part of me is just like, okay, this is what it feels like to me. This is how I understand it. And this is where I work from it. But I haven't, I mean, I guess I haven't been that intellectual about it. I mean,
You don't have to be, though. So I love science and I really dig science. And not only that, Polly, I'm extremely skeptical with all of this stuff. Extremely. Until I actually have a personal experience, I don't believe what anybody says or anything. And the only reason why I might even think that I'm psychic or have some sort of psychic talents is that my clients are always validating what I say. But I'm still like, I don't know. I don't know. So, I mean, I always loved the X-Files and like I was just like, I don't know that ETs exist and aliens and all that until I had some multidimensional experiences. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So like I just come from a more intellectual, scientific kind of appreciation, but that doesn't mean the way I look and see and explain things is any better
No,
or
I totally get
different than anyone else. Yeah.
I totally, and we all work from a place that we understand, right?
Exactly. And that's part of our gift. Shh, don't tell anyone I said that.
But it's true, and I guess I am essentially, and I've always said this, I am essentially lazy because I'm like, okay, I'm, like, just give it to me, and I don't. It's so, but then I love to like think about, okay, how does it? What does it like? How is it out there? Like, what does right? I love thinking about it, but do I know it?
No. Oh my God. And the minute, Polly, we say we know something, it's all going to change. So that's why I'm like, I'll be arrogant in my actual knowing, but once I go past that, I'm like, oh, there we go. Humble Terry comes out to eat humble pie again.
I totally agree. And this is a bizarre thing to say, but I was in fifth grade when my stepfather died, and he died like right at my feet, basically.
Wow.
And the thing that's so interesting to me is even like as a fifth grader, I watched that happen, and it was with nothing but observation. It was nothing but like, this is I mean, look at it. Whatever. I mean, I cry over other stuff, but it was like at that time, it was just like, it was just like an experience. And I was telling that to my son the other day, and it's so interesting because for whatever reason, I was able to step back and put that in a certain way.
Well, that was your higher self. Your higher self got it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting though?
Yeah.
But we all go through that. We have these experiences where we're able to like step back and we put it in a way that we're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. As long as it's not a disassociation, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's trauma. But listen, that is actually for a fifth grader, that's very traumatic to happen. So, like whether it was disassociation or you being able, again, things like that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In that moment, you had that emotional maturity to just sort of like witness and observe, which is ideally how we want to kind of go through life. That would be the easy way of going through
Yeah.
life.
And also having just, I guess, like, to remember that even like young kids, have people say, oh, the veil's thinner for them, whatever it really is. But young kids will innately know how to connect to the other side, innately understand that there is something more than this, right?
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
It is amazing. And to let them cultivate that, because that will be their guidance through life.
So I have this client who's 11 years old.
Oh, sweet.
Oh my gosh. And so she and her mom will sit in sessions with me just a few times a year. She comes to me and she's just the cutest thing. And the last time there was a mean girl at school, right? So again, this is a human issue. So I showed her some energy techniques in which how she can deflect it while still looking normal amongst the people, her peers and all of that, right? That little kiddo is so spiritual because she's taking this human experience and transmuting that energy. And I mean, she's just precious. And I'm sure you've noticed that the little kiddos these days, they come already programmed with all of this like knowledge of the internet and all of that stuff. You and I did not have that. I actually had to take a class in university. Like, what is the internet? How does it work? Right. And these kids nowadays, they come programmed. They're like already. So they're amazing.
But I think even like, I'm sure, look at you as a kid, you innately had this ability, like so many, right? Like so many of us do, but it's not like it's honored. It's like learning how to read, I mean, I want my kids to read, but it's like that type of stuff is honored more than paying attention to your feelings or honoring like how you feel next to somebody, honoring, how you feel when you sit by the tree by yourself, whatever. It's like that stuff is, it's just interesting how we're literally programming.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is that humans don't come with a manual. So, people like you and I, we can raise our children. I mean, I don't have any children, but I have a niece and nephew, right? So I do my best within their limitations. And I'm sure you do your best too, to just kind of like really teach them how their energy works. And like, just not everything you see, it has to be real. And we all have so many truths and, all of these things. That's up to us. But, we're in this ascension period and it's starting to happen, thankfully. But that's the difference between, this evolution that we're having from more materialism into more, esotericism. So it's happening. I do wish it happened faster, but it's happening compared to, like 10 years ago. Oh my God.
I mean, perhaps the reason it's happening are it's gaining attention, right?
Yeah.
And it's gaining attention, even if it's gaining attention in kind of funny, funny ways. It's still gaining attention, right? It's still swinging that way. So I appreciate that. Okay. One last question. Well, two. Sure. Do you have, like, if you were to say that you connect, because there's so many, there have been so many teachers with Jesus, Buddha, we could just go on and on. Is there one that you feel like more aligned with, like, wow, I feel like I'm teaching, I feel like I'm working with this energy? Is there one that you feel more aligned with?
It's a really good question. Lately, I've been feeling like I'm connecting with multidimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've had some of those experiences. I don't know who they are just yet. I'm still kind of working with them. They do feel more cosmic than they do angelic, or just like my guide energy. But where I've been placing a lot of my attention, let's just say, because these multidimensional beings is just happening. I'm not placing my attention on them. My attention has been more recently, probably in the last 3 months or so, with Kuan Yin, goddess Kuan Yin, for compassion and mercy for myself, because I just tend to be very hard on myself, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going through so many life changes, just like everyone else. So I feel like I've been maybe connecting with her energy more, just to be kinder to myself. And of course, it's going to make me be able to be kinder to other people. Right. So, that's the best way I can answer your question, because the other stuff is happening to me, or I should say, I'm being contacted. I don't know, anal probing, no abductions, like that. But in terms of where I'm placing my attention, or me taking control, would be more like Kuan Yin. And it's very new, and it's just a lot. And I do so much heart coherency that it's like the brain heart coherency, because I'm really into manifestation and creation.
You are very much you are a scientific person. Like you do, like
a spiritual scientist, I guess you
are. That's I appreciate that. I went to school. I was a nurse a long time ago, so I had to have like some science stuff. But so I appreciate the science stuff. And when I was on this TV thing recently, and I didn't know anything going into it, and it was so funny. The Bigfoot was part of it, and it was like, and it was so funny because I was like, well, energy is energy, but I don't know anything about Bigfoot. But it was very funny the way everything rolled out.
Yeah. that to me sounds like healthy skepticism. Like you tell me about Bigfoot, I'm like, I don't know, you know?
It was so funny. I had to say I'm not a Bigfoot expert, but this is what I'm feeling. But it was so interesting because and I didn't know, and this was in Alaska, and I did not know this, but a lot of them believe that there are like portals that this energy comes out of. And I had no flipping idea. And I lived there for 18 years.
Yeah. But just because you don't feel something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like that's what I tell people, because a lot of times I'll get, well, a psychic told me this. And I'm like, well, I'm just not getting it. It doesn't mean it's not existing. I'm just not getting that information.
Well, now it's interesting. Like I could see, I mean, I could definitely feel things, but could I say this is Bigfoot? No, I mean,
who knows?
I'm not a Bigfoot expert. So I don't know.
Same here.
I don't know. Okay. So what is if you could give like one message to humanity, what would it be? Like what's your greatest message?
And this is from personal experience.
Well, this could be like, if you could say, okay, every night when people rest their head on their pillow and they want, to think, if you could think of one thing.
Yeah. Opening the heart heals everything.
Yeah.
It's the largest electromagnetic field of the body, even more than the brain. It has neurons. So your brain is actually a heart. I'm sorry, your heart is actually a brain. So your heart is smart.
Yeah.
And it's because it's such a big field, it alchemizes and transmutes. So the more you open your heart, despite your fear, despite the survival response, that's where healing comes from, is getting in the heart. So as scary as it is, get in your heart. That's why I'm always saying, how's your heart today? And so many.
Oh, that's sweet. I like that.
How's your heart today?
That's sweet. I do love that. That's very sweet. Well, do you feel, okay, before we go, do you feel like our country, well, I'm sure our world, but I'll just say our country because I don't know for sure, but that we do have, a lot of cardiac health issues. Do you think it's related to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting though?
It is extremely interesting and absolutely no mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay, that's the stuff I love.
Yes.
Right? Like I love that stuff.
That's weird stuff.
But it's fun. But it's also fun. And it's also like, okay, so if there is that, what can I do to shift it? Right?
Yep.
What can I do to shift it?
Yep.
So, yeah, it's all fun. Well, Terrie, thank you so much. And your information is going to be posted on this, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you for your coaching, mediumship, psychic readings,
sure.
Your website, whoops, I had it pulled up. Hold on. Terrie Huberman, Intuitive Coach.
Well, you could just go to terriehuberman.com.
Okay, perfect.
Everything will be there.
Okay.
Another really great thing is my YouTube channel, because that's really, it's all free, and there's just like, it's really great educational source and an inspirational source. And it's just a lot of fun. So those are definitely the places to check me out. And Polly, this was a lot of fun. This is the first time you and I have met. So this is really nice.
It is the first time. And I think, I do appreciate, finding people, because we work the same way, but finding people, okay, we work the same way to a point, right? But then you have your different, have, and I think that that's really fun. I mean, I think it's really fun to show that there's different ways of receiving, there's different ways of understanding the world, there's different, right? And it's because we all come in with what feels good to us, and honoring that. And I love that.
Yeah.
So,
this has been really fun.
Okay, so this will be on my website, YouTube, and then I'll send it to you also.
Fabulous.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to stop.